I also thought of a quote when I was listening to the speakers before. Somebody had mentioned Robert F. Kennedy. Well, John F. Kennedy had said that the future prospect of any nation depends on the current prospects of its youth. And I thought that that was also a particularly useful perspective to look at, especially when looking at conflict countries. Over half the world's population is under 25 now, as the United Nations Populations Fund is reporting. And I think that we have failed miserably as an advanced society to have no fewer wars going on today than there were 30 or even 50 years ago when the United Nations was founded. But at the same time, there's something to be hopeful about, because over the past 10 or 11 years since I've been doing this work, I've noticed an extreme, a really powerful, progressive force that has really been getting more young people involved, not just in political parties, but also in places where the international decision-making is taking place. At the United Nations, there's talk among, in many of the UN agencies in terms of how they can more effectively engage young people as real actors. And recently, in the past couple of years, we've seen the publication of several major reports, including the World Development Report by the World Bank, that was focused specifically on young people. And that document itself was riding off of the World Youth Report that was published by the United Nations, really presenting the case for having national youth policies and young people effectively engaged. And that report itself was riding off of the World Program of Action for Youth to the year 2000 and beyond was the original name. They since shortened it. But the 10-year review of that happened in 2005. So actually that document was riding off of the 1995 version of the World Program of Action for Youth, which itself was riding off of the International Year of Youth in 1985, which itself was going off of the 1965 Declaration on the Promotion of the Rights of Human Ideals and Peace Among Young People, which was put out by the UN. So I'm just giving kind of this backwards timeline to illustrate that this conversation is not a new one. The UN, at least, and many of the other international organizations have been talking about young people's participation as critical since the year that they were founded. Only now are we beginning to see, and especially so in the last 10 years, this kind of new momentum. And it's giving us something to be hopeful about. It's giving some progress that we can leverage in order to create new and more effective opportunities for young people. A quick background on the Global Youth Action Network and what we've been trying to do is connect up youth organizations around the world. There are, in fact, thousands upon thousands and thousands of youth organizations that have been created over the past 10 or 15 years, and especially with the advent of the internet in at least the developed world, there have been all of these new youth organizations, networks, initiatives, campaigns, and programs. But there have been very few connective forces out there. And all of these young people have been riding from a place of passion, trying to positively impact their communities and their countries. But they've been running up against the same closed doors in terms of not finding the institutional support, the governmental support, the financial support, or even recognition in the media for their efforts. And what we've tried to do as the Global Youth Action Network is kind of create that clearinghouse, create that central place where organizations can come to learn from each other, to access resources, particularly information resources, and to create communication channels, because with all of these new groups that have been created out there, there is a massive force and potential for them to work together as agents of positive change. Truly, there are probably more young people involved in pro-social activism today than maybe ever before in history. So we were recognizing that potential and trying to figure out if we could minimize the kind of redundancy that was happening out there, create more support for their action, and help them work together and leverage their efforts more effectively. Perhaps in this generation, we could affect the kind of changes that the UN has been talking about for 60 years now. There are some specific political activities that I was asked if I've seen young people in conflict and post-conflict settings actively engage in. And to be honest, there's almost no significant activity or process that young people can't be and shouldn't be positively engaged in. And that can range from anything, whether it's even community volunteering in their community, which contributes to community development, or if you move all the way up to the policy ladder to the formulation of national policies. one of the groups that we were working with in Afghanistan in 2002, while they were dealing with the conflict there was an 18-year-old leader of that organization who had actually managed to pull together a bunch of key leaders and several representatives from governments and organize national youth roundtables. So pretty much at the height of the conflict, you had these young people who were coming together to talk about real policy changes that they wanted to see put into effect, real solutions that came based on the needs that they experienced firsthand. And it wasn't just in that country. There have been a number of other countries that we've seen this happen in, DRC, Iraq, and others. Even in places like Sierra Leone, where there was this young former child soldier called Vandi Kanyako, who created an organization called Peace Links, engaging his peers in arts and cultural activities that, again, gave them that sense of belonging to something positive, something meaningful, and gave them an avenue that was an alternative to the otherwise joining the militia. Basically, I want to recall one other quote from Einstein, which probably most of you have heard, that says, problems cannot be solved with the same level of thinking that was used when they were first created. And for me, that's another and probably one of the greatest rationales for getting young people involved. Because if we really haven't succeeded in cutting down the number of conflicts in this long, 30 or 50 or 60 years, why not involve the youth? We have not much to lose. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the panel. I think we have about 30 minutes for Q&A, so I open the floor. Yes, and if you could identify yourself and indicate to whom you're directing your question, and we do want questions rather than statements. Thank you.
My name is Yvonne Jennings. I'm a doctoral student at the University, George Mason University, of the Conflict Analysis and Resolution Institute. I'm from Haiti, and I'm a retiree from the World Bank. And I travel extensively throughout Africa, and I know Kenya very well. And my question is directed to Mr. John Emwat. I would like to know, how do you handle the challenge of traditional values in the context of promoting youth activities? Because I know, like in Haiti and many African countries, the youth, they have no voice. So how do you handle that challenge?
Thank you. Drawing from my own experience in Kenya, where you have, this cultural question being hazy, because again, if you look at our history, of course, we have different kinds of people there. We have about 42 different cultures, and at independence. Unlike other situations, other countries in Africa where the leadership found a way of having these people pull together and have a common identity, in Kenya we still have a problem where each and every community would like to pull back to their small cocoons and say, I am this people, I am that kind of person, such that it poses a big challenge. But what I would say is, once you put issues forth and make them the center of attraction, so that what affects me affects the other person on the other side there, it would be easy to mobilize people, to get people to agree to an idea, because it would cut across. But if one were to say that you want to have one way of looking at it, based on the different types of cultures, it would be a bit difficult.
The questions? Yes, in the back.
My name is I'm an independent journalist. I would like to ask all three young people, where do they get their political ideas from? Because obviously, I don't know about the other two, but the young lady there is a parliamentarian. She went to parliament on a political party ticket, which means she chose a side in the political process. Where does she get the ideas that moved her to be part of the political organization that she is? And if I'm allowed to make a comment, I can do that. Why I asked the question.
Unfortunately, or it's my luck, I don't know. I was studying political science, and generally, youth in Bosnia and Herzegovina are not active in any segment of life. They are more faced with, let's say, some basic life needs, like not being able to finish their education, not being able to form a family. So that is pretty frustrating for all of us. And let's say that a great percentage of them just give up of all activities and just wait for somebody else to make decisions, and that decisions are mainly a wrong one and manipulated by political leaders during the pre-election and election time, because everything all promises are start and end up with the day of election. And what I was thinking about, like, okay, I'm getting my diploma, and what can I do? Because nobody will employ me with this degree. Like, I cannot do some practical work, and I didn't know, like, really how it's supposed to look like my future life, my professional life. And plus, I was so hard working to find a way how to get into the political party. And unfortunately, again, you always need to be recommended by somebody, then to be in some relationship with with people in the main bodies of the political parties. To have a well-known last name, so you will be recognized. And but let's say my way was much, I don't know, it's like a movie because I started from very, very beginning. I just went to work for a couple hours volunteering in my political party. And, because of, let's say, a good, my parents educated me very well. So I said, okay, I will do whatever you say to me. And it included a lot of different things. Now when I'm thinking, I would say, like, I wasn't a servant there, like, just to try to satisfy everyone's expectation, and that's very hard. And but it seemed that all my efforts just comes for my better future, because I'm sorry, because of the language, probably I will not be so clear. So I will try to explain as much as I can with my vocabulary. So thank you. Thank you. So, like, this is a great opportunity, because I'm 90%. I'm not good in statistics, but I'm saying all the time this percentage. But this would be really the fact, because you all have relevant information on our websites of all political bodies in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and it's obviously that there is no youth in the executive or legislative bodies. So I am, let's say, maybe one of the youngest. Like, all my colleagues are 45 or even older. So it's not so easy to work with, because they are very suspicious, especially because you're young, you're a woman. Traditionally, there is some kind of prejudice, like you should stay. You can finish university and get diploma, but why should you work when you can stay at home? So, but they are not all the same, and situation is different by day, and you know, they seem more open. Although I don't know, is that enough honest or not? But I have a great help from my colleagues from party I'm coming from. You know, no matter if they are men or women colleagues, so they are really supportive to me. I lost my debate.
Can I have a follow-up?
What?
Can I have a follow-up?
Did you want the other colleagues to answer, or did you want to address another question?
No, I would like to have a follow-up to her response. I picked up two things.
Mm-hmm.
You chose the political party you did because of education from your parents. That's what you said, right?
Not education because of my parents. My choice is like, okay, I got the degree, and I needed to pick up the right. I don't know if that is right, like for the rest of the Bosnia, but for me, it's my personal choice to be a member of this political party because it doesn't represent only one ethnic group. It's multinational, multicultural, so that's enough for me, you know, because after the wartime, we have been so tired and sick of all national groups and divisions, and we just wanted to, you know, work together on our better future. And as a fact, in 1996, our program, I think on a political party, our program was very progressive because in that environment after the wartime, Bosnia and Herzegovina, as you heard, is one state but with two entities, and but they are built on Dayton agreements, and it cannot be changed only like through the constitutional reforms. But one of our elections mottos, how we say, slogans were like let's fall down that borders, don't have divisions, don't have entities at all. Let's go back and have like one state, one people, and live together again. So that also caused a lot of problem for a political party because we got a lot of like financial. We needed to pay a lot of money actually to the because of we broke a law according to the present law in a state electoral, I think.
Let's let the other two panelists address the question if they'd like to. I don't know, Benjamin or John, if you wanted to.
Yeah, thank you. These political ideas, what's the anchor like? Where do you get them from? You see, in Kenya, we have a problem because the political party has not matured yet. It's not become an institution, so that you could say, this is what it stands for, these are its programs, you know, there's a calendar here to be followed for doing this and that, so on and so forth. It's now that we're struggling to do that. And I could say that within my political party we're trying, but we're far from it. It's only the other day that we had an opportunity to share with the Dutch minister that visited. And, you know, she shared with us the experience from our own country. She's a government minister and a party leader of our own party. You know, she said that party affairs there are so serious that a member of parliament could even miss a session in parliament, but you cannot miss, you know, an appointment with your party. If there is an activity that's scheduled, and they usually have on a weekly basis, specific day, specific time, where party matters are dealt with, they have to attend those meetings. There's no choice about that. I listened to her and I was like, we have some way to go. You look at me here, you know, there's something usually about leadership, about what they say, you know, it's like a call or something like that. You pick up these issues as you grow up. You become a member of a debating society, what and so forth, as you come through the school system. You finish your degree, and you're just keen on these things. And, you know, as it is right now, you look at individuals and you listen to them, the way they carry themselves. And so you say, fine, he espouses ideas and ideals that I think are okay. So you drive yourself to that, and then you find yourself in this political party, and we're in that mix where we're trying to now put down on paper, you know, in all our policy documents, you know, talk about the manifesto, the constitution, strategic plan, you know, and things such as those. So we're trying to cobble it up together now, but it's been growing gradually.
I'm not really part of a political party, so I'm not sure the question really applies to me. I'd be happy to answer it, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Yes.
Yes, hi. My name is Mindy Reiser. I'm representing Global Peace Services. It's an NGO that does training and education for peace service and conflict transformation. A question to you, Benjamin. Could you talk a little bit about the local and national youth councils and what they actually are doing and what kind of concrete effects do they actually have? I think it's great to have people discuss issues and to understand policy options, but what are some of the impacts they're having on the ground, either locally or nationally?
There's a wide array of accomplishments that they're achieving. Primarily, most effective national youth councils have to do with appropriations as they relate to funding for youth programs and agencies that are dealing with youth-related affairs, but they also have to do with actual empowerment and creation or maintenance and ongoing sustaining of youth organizations in the country. For example, in Northern Europe, which is probably the most developed in terms of youth participation broadly and also specifically with national youth councils, they have a significant amount of money that's given to them every year by the government to underwrite their operations. They're included without a doubt or question on the country delegations to the General Assembly, which means that young people have a voice in the global arena. And those national youth councils actually serve to represent the interests and voices of young people throughout their country, largely composed of a membership which could be in the tens, hundreds of thousands, but specifically also by the youth organizations which are members of the National Youth Council. And again, Europe as a case in point, because they seem to be the most advanced in terms of youth participation, they not only have the local and the national youth councils, but they also have the European Youth Forum, which is the regional association of all of the councils. And that organization is actually known as one of the Big Seven, the largest 7 youth organizations and most influential youth organizations in the world. So, you know, at the municipal level, sometimes they will have debates with potential candidates and congresspeople and local elected officials. Sometimes they will set the agenda for those debates. They will meet with the mayor to talk about programming, calendars, appropriations, etc. And really such a wide array of other activities.
And what is the age range usually of the people in these youth councils?
It depends on the country, because it depends on their definition of youth, but the vast majority will be in between 15 and 25.
Yes, here in front.
Yes, I suppose I should address this also to Ben, since you work with, thank you, with organizations in different countries. And I'm curious to know if you have any data, statistics, or are there special approaches or strategies that you've seen to ensure the inclusion of female youth? I asked this question. I've worked with a number of youth organizations in several Latin American countries, and I was really struck and disappointed by the huge majority in the leadership of young men and the absence of women. I'm Joan Gooden from Management Systems International, by the way. So I just wonder, as I say, if these councils, you know, make an effort to include young women, or what is happening in traditional societies, as in Latin America, where women have very specific and conservative roles in society?
There's, first of all, no standard that I'm aware of, and very, very, very few statistics at the global level, particularly as they relate to young people. But you're talking about, again, a wide disparity in terms of cultural differences. Because you're talking about, how many countries are we talking about? 180, 250 countries and territories. It's going to depend very widely, but there is this disparity in between those who participate and the equity that's often missing across the board, not only in terms of gender, but also in terms of socioeconomic status or cultural heritage. I think many are struggling to deal with the issue of having more balanced representation. Young people are more keen, as far as I've noticed, on the issue than adults in this matter. But I would really defer to these two to speak from their experience in their country. Maybe they can talk about the youth representation and any equity that they've managed to achieve there.
As I already told, there is some kind of prejudice, like cultural and traditional inherited, like between young people, women and men. They are, let's say that we are somehow put in a sideline always, and there is a lot of women who would just take a part actively in any segment of life. Let's say in a official policy would be just promoting equal status of the both genders, but the truth is different, and you can even count on 10 fingers of your hands, like how many successful women with career we have in Bosnia, and there is no certain kind of programs which can help for their better and active engaging into social and especially political life. Because like we have only, and we are all so happy because of that mayor, not the mayor, she is of the Sarajevo, and she's one of the most famous politicians, women, very successful, not only in a professional but also in a private life. So that's a approval that woman can be successful in every segment of life. Only if that is really what she would like to have from her life, and if the rest of society is accepting her just as male, just equal, just seeing her as a human being, not being Jane or John, So that's a problem we are struggling in our community and in our country still, and I am expecting the same for a very, very long period.
Situation in Kenya is that of we're still in the woods on the issue of balance. Whether you're talking about positions in government, decision-making, policy matters, or political parties for that matter, but there is pressure on both government and political parties from the global level, even within the country, to do something about that. And really you can see today that deliberate moves are being made to bring women into positions of decision-making and stuff like that. Recently, the President talked about a third of all positions, whatever level it would be, would have to go to women. And for us as political parties, of course, we're listening to this, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to close your ears to what's going on around you, and so you have to do something one way or another. We have in our constitution, which we're trying to review now, a little clause hidden somewhere that says that we should also have a third representation of women in our party structures. But this is way down at the grassroots level. When it comes to the decision-making organ of the party, the National Executive Committee, it disappears. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get it from where it's hiding there and bring it to the front pages of the Constitution and say that this is an issue that we must deal with. As a party, of course, the little resources we get, a couple of months back, we've tried to really use this to develop the capacities of women and youth. So we're trying to focus on that.
Other questions for our panelists? Just making sure there's no one in the back. Anne?
Anne Van Dusen. I'm teaching a course on youth and international development at Georgetown right now. Ben mentioned the World Development Report, and it gives a lot of attention to youth emigration. Points out that youth are much more likely to emigrate than adults. They're also much more likely to come back. And I'm curious, this is really a question for Indira and John, whether you see this as a positive, that youth will go away for maybe 10 years to work and study and then come back, or a negative in terms of youth development in your countries.
I will be honest, and then just to speak to express my personal opinion. Let's say first, I doubt when you say that they would go and after 10 years come back. They can come back only as visitors, because after the wartime, we had a lot of migrations, and really a lot of our ex-citizens, they even have they got another citizenship visas, and they just come for a very short period, hanging around for a while, just for 7 or even 1 month, and that's all. And even worse is with the youth. And also, what is frustrating now in my country, especially for youth who spend all the time, I think, on the wartime and after the wartime in our country, because they have benefits. I think on the youth who finish their education in abroad, not in Bosnia, they have benefits to get work, as a first, so that's really frustrating. What for then I stayed in the country, what for I studied at all, and because I guess that is still a part of prejudice and part of cultural and traditional things, if you go somewhere and get a diploma from some, I don't know, it can be some anonymous, country, even for us, and get diploma, but that is much more than have a diploma in Bosnia, in any part of Bosnia.
I would say both positive and negative. Negative, if these young people, as a result of not finding opportunities in their home countries, their efforts are being stymied, they're not progressing, and so they feel pressure, they feel the need to look for places where they can feel comfortable. That, of course, is negative, and in several ways. Country loses its young population, and it has no control over what's going to happen in the future. Positive, if young people, perhaps on attaining education, feel on their own that they want to go out there and look for opportunities. In the sense that, of course, you do not want to restrict a young person or whoever it is to a particular environment and say you belong here and therefore you should work here or something like that. If they are going out there on their own without being pressured to do so, that would be
one more thing, if I can say. I think, why I said, expressed that it's negative event, because, just forcing youth to finally face with all strugglingness in our country, like, somehow can make them to really to realize that there is no way out if they not take all in their own hands, because nobody will make decisions, at least right ones for them, except them. So they need to become responsible for their own activities, for their future, for the future of their children, not waiting for for another generation to bring them all finished and done. So that's important, like somehow to put them in that kind of environment. And because we are not to be honest, like we are not going a good reflection from our government. They don't, as I said, they don't have a national strategy which would include all aspects of the law of the youth policy. But somehow in that kind of situation of pressure, we can work together and make each other to bring some solutions, and to solve our problems, because there is no another way how we can solve problems except between among us. Nobody from even America cannot come and say, okay, this is how you're supposed to do, and after we leave, everything is gonna be fine. But we are responsible for our future, and the youth needs to know that.
Other questions for our panelists? Over here.
Hi, I'm Mark Hughes, CHF International, and a former member of the International Youth Leadership Council at Advocates for Youth. Is this on? One of the things that arose when I attended the International AIDS Conference in Toronto is I was there with about 1,000 young people, and it was wonderful and inspiring, but I noticed that all of us came from certain elite sort of circles within our own countries. A lot of us were urban, technologically savvy, and we spoke the right language, and we all had this great commitment. But I felt like there was a gap between us and the demographic that we represented and the young people that we were trying to advocate for. And Elizabeth mentioned these at-risk youth. I'd be interested to know, John and Indira, whether you've had much success or some of the issues that have come up in being a young leader and trying to advocate and work with and for young people who come from sort of less privileged and more difficult backgrounds.
It's a complicated one in the sense that you're dealing with a whole historical question where over the years the distribution of resources has been such that you have those who have, and of course they keep passing it on to their own. Then those who do not have also keep being on the fringes. You have, say, in my situation, I grew up in the countryside, but then again, like I said, if you have a university away from my home area, in Nairobi, tells me to go there, go there. Then after that, the only other place you can, say look for a job and find something useful for yourself to do is the same place. It cuts you off. You do not want that to happen, but you find yourself in a situation where you just cut off from the rest of the people, such that the complications that come along with that, the logistics, you have to organize if you to do a trip back home, 500 kilometers far off. It's really something that we need some planning and something which you cannot do all too often. And like you rightly pointed out, you see it creates that disconnect, such that because, for instance, I'm running in my home constituency, I have to deal with issues where, at a level, they have, they look at me as, the urbanite. The boy from town is here, so he's asking to be elected or something like that. So you have to grapple with the issue of they don't see you as entirely one of their own, such that it becomes an issue for you to deal with. So how do you go around it? But if you are to look at it broadly, you'll find that the issues don't change, as it were. What affects them affects me, but a different context or something like that.
Well, maybe because this is my very beginning of professional MP, so I don't have that kind of feeling that and that I'm so that I'm not close to my backgrounds, and especially like youth can easily identify with me because I'm not for a very rich family, that's not my background. I'm just daughter of parents who are like, let's say, middle class, they just give opportunity for each of their free child to educate, and I didn't have a help even even advising from anybody because my dad is that kind of authority who would say just knowledge and being honest, that's the most important and valuable in life. So just go through life and you will find how it looks like. And so honestly, I think that there is no obstacles in identification with me, not as a representative, just like with me as Indira Karovic, because I think that any person from the youth can say, okay, that can be me too. And what else?
Actually, let me probe a little bit deeper on this question, because we, and I'm sure many of you, have tried to explore the issue of marginalized populations, populations from rural areas, perhaps underrepresented within their political environment, perhaps not necessarily with access to educational resources as others in their society might. Should donors, whether it's USAID or other donors, or groups like NDI, or Mercy Corps, or I saw Adrienne Paul back there, World Vision, people on the ground, should we be seeking out those groups, ethnic groups, religious groups, political groups, marginalized groups, however it's defined? Should we be reaching out to some of those women's groups to try and level the playing field, so to speak? And to the extent that we do that, how then do we address the issue that you yourself raised, John, where people leave, whether for their capital or their regional center or abroad? Do they then lose that connection to their home community, so they are no longer seen as being able to speak on behalf of the people back home?
Generally, that would be like some kind of disease in Bosnia than in a world of policy, because that is the fact, because that like in Sarajevo as a capital, there is all power in a country. There is a really small number of the representatives who are from city. So they are like all from different regions, from different parts of Bosnia. And they struggle with that problems because they are only active and very close to their units, electoral units, only during the election and pre-election time. You know, promises and everything what goes with that. And a lot of people are just disappointed with that. But we don't have a long history of democratic elections. So how many times they have been betrayed. And I guess it will take also a few times. So they will become finally conscious of the fact that, you know, that they are manipulated, I think, on the voters. So that's happening. Our politicians are just getting cut from their backgrounds as soon as they got their position on some another level than local.
Don't worry. Go ahead.
Thank you. I would agree with you on the issue of the multifaceted approach to dealing with this issue, such that, for instance, political parties in my country don't have to be the only ones to take political education to the people. This can be done by many other organizations that can, find their way to the people. And I should say that the NDI program in Kenya has done quite a bit in this area because they have workshops where they ask political parties to bring people from the grassroots together so that whatever education, for instance, that I went through in the academy in 2002, these people also have an opportunity to get it firsthand. And you look at what the situation is, again, you get that there are many other organizations that are involved in sharing with the people, building their capacities, different areas. World Vision are very much on the ground in Kenya dealing with the marginalized, the minorities and stuff like that. So yes, these other organizations can come in and try and fill the gap. Now, whether that happens, then so there will be a disconnect between this other person that went away from the village and to school, to another place in the world or something like that. I think that again will be a question of how one would be ingenious enough to fit in, because if I were to give my own example, fine, I got out of the village, and for a couple of years, 5 to 10 years, I was away. And okay, there's this going back you do. You go back a week, you go back 2 weeks, and not everyone in your place will get to see you. But in my campaigning, for example, I have managed to break through that because, again, thanks to NDI, because you get. I go to the people, I do my own research, find out what the issues are, what really concerns them. Then I go to them and sit there. I'm not in a hurry. I take 3-4 hours with them. And it would really be how you reconnect with them, because you would appear mechanical or not sincere. When you just get to them and you're saying one little thing, you don't even want to hear what they have to say, and you take off. So it depends on how you blend back, because I think I'm doing well. You go there, you listen to the people, you give them an opportunity to ask questions, and something that has not happened before. I don't think it would be too complicated.
And to keep promise.
Oh, yes.
I think we're going to have to cut it off there. It is break time, and I know Ambassador Milam will want to start his panel precisely at 4 o'clock. Thank you all very much. Please join me in thanking our panelists.